Hi, Kevin McFall here from the Cognos Analytics Product Management team. Just wanted to take a few minutes and walk you through some of the latest and greatest capabilities that have been released as part of 11.0.7 or R7 as you may hear it referred to. So the first thing that you can see here as we get started is we have made some enhancements or changes to our portal experience. So right off the bat, when we land into the product, we'll see that we've got our 6 most recently interacted with assets. I do have the ability here to show more, but the ability to also collapse that back down. A couple of the things on this main area, we've opened up the ability to drag and drop or browse for your files directly from your starting point, as well as on the right-hand side, some links out to some videos, samples, as well as our support area in terms of our community in order to help you guys engage and uh, get help that you need. One of the other things that you'll notice is here in the top left-hand corner, we have this home button. And so this will be available for you no matter where you are in the product, whether it's reporting, dashboarding, modeling, stories. That button will always be there and always take you back to your home page. One of the other things that we did based on user feedback was we've eliminated the tiles or the panels as part of our navigation. In place of it, we have the single panel, which you can resize in order to meet the needs of what you're trying to achieve or what you're trying to view. So let's go ahead and take a look at our data module area. And in data modules, we've done a few things here in terms of trying to make some consistent dialogues as well as trying to make the user experience a little bit more streamlined. So let's request a little bit of a proposal here. And so with that, what you'll see is that by default, what we land on is actually a grid here. And so with the grid, I can see the underlying data that's within this data source. I can right click on a header in order to be able to create filters or calculations. Same set of capabilities that I have through the 3 dots next to each of the elements in my metadata pane. And so from here, you can see that this dialog does look a little bit different. As I said, when we go into dashboards, you'll see the same dialog, trying to make sure that we have that consistent experience across the UI. Now I can still go ahead and take a look at my diagram. I can go ahead and try and edit the relationship again, just showing these few little things where we have made some small changes in terms of how things are presented. You can see now we've placed some of the relationship information in this little dialog as opposed to taking up a lot of real estate along the bottom, giving more prominence to the pieces that you actually need in terms of creating your joins. All right, so with that in mind, let's go ahead and use my home button to get back to where we started. And one of the things that we're going to talk about is a new capability called My Parameters. And you'll notice that here I have this new icon. And so this is the My Parameters panel. And so what does My Parameters mean? My Parameters is a mechanism through which users can go ahead and actually set up and customize parameters. So in this case, I can either import them from an existing report or create them new. In this case, if I look at product line, this was from a report called OMPL Rev. And then what I'm able to do is come into my accounts and with each role, be able to associate these with particular elements. So if I go ahead for my server administrators, I can go ahead and under parameters, take a look at this. And so you'll see here those 2 parameters are available. And if I select them, then I can go ahead and actually choose different options for each of these, allowing me to have these as the default values anytime a user uh, encounters a report with that particular parameter. And now in this case, I'm going to go ahead and open up one of my reports. And in this case, you can see this was the report from which these parameters were pulled. But let's go ahead and run this separate report. And so this report has the same parameters. And again, when I say same parameters, it does require the parameters to have the same name. And so in this case, if I were to open up my panel, you'll see here that email, mail, and web, and then my product lines, camping equipment, mountaineering equipment. Now, if I do want to make some changes, I can go ahead and apply those. And you'll see that my report now updates to include that third element. And so this is something that's really going to help our users as they go forward, trying to make it as simple and straightforward for users as possible. So let's go ahead and take a look at a slightly different report. Let's take a look at this HR expense report. Now, we're going to follow this HR theme through the rest of the demo as we look at some of the new capabilities in dashboards as well. So the first thing that probably jumps out to you, we now have maps available as part of reports. So this is something that we introduced as part of dashboards. Now that same capability available here in reports, and they are fully interactive. I can move them around. If I hover over, you get the tooltips being displayed. One of the other things that we introduced was the ability to do or to leverage the navigation groups that were made available as part of dashboards and modules in previous releases. So in this case, I've built this in on top of a module, and so I can now drill down into a particular, in this case, manager. One of the other things that we've introduced is this filter panel. And so you can see in this case we're showing all, but if I did want to come over here and let's say exclude Go accessories, you can see here that I now have visibility to that filter, and I can even edit or remove it directly from there as well. And so what's nice with these, if I apply my filter again, just to, let's exclude this guy maybe this time. One of the things that's really nice with this is when I select this, you can actually see there's this dotted line around the element that's being impacted by that particular filter. And so if you can imagine, if you have multiple filters across different elements, this is going to be something that really helps you focus and understand what that filter is impacting in the event that numbers just don't look or feel quite right. All right, so let's now go back home, and let's start looking at a dashboard and what we've done in terms of the dashboard. So I'm going to go ahead, and as I said, I'm going to start to utilize that HR data set. So we're going to use this HR module to create a dashboard. And the first screens here, they're relatively the same. Now, again, a couple things that will be obvious here for us. Along the top, you'll see that we do now have the filter dock. So you'll have one which applies across all tabs, and then one that is specific just to this tab. So let's go ahead and take a look at some of these. So let's start by taking a look at maybe by month. Let's see, month and expense total. And so again, as I drag these in, we'll get the visualization coming back, which will show us a nice little bar chart, my revenue, or my expenses over months. And so let's go ahead and take a look at what might happen if we're interested in, we were seeing in those previous screens, we're looking at organization. So in this case, we can see, Go Americas, Go Accessories, and Go Asia Pac. But that's nice and all, but that's sort of the standard that we've had. So let's actually go ahead and expand this, and let's take that and drop this into the repeater column. And so now what we're seeing is across each of these, we're now seeing this nice sort of repetition. And let's see if there's any difference across years. And so again, just by adding in something a little bit different, you can now see that I've gone from a simple visualization into something a little bit more compelling, and allows me to see really across not only months, but years as well as the organizations. And we can see that clearly Go Accessories is costing or has expenses in an order of magnitude larger than the other two parts of our business. So this is something that's interesting, and maybe we want to go ahead and take a look at it. Next, let's take a look at the average employee. So with that, I can come up to the top here and create a calculation. And so you'll see here we've introduced a more robust or advanced calculation editor here. In this case, we want to figure out account, distinct, and we're going to use the employee names in order to give us the number of employees that we have. And in this case, I validate it. Everything looks good. Let's give this a calculation name. And that's added here to our metadata tree. And I can go ahead and simply drag this in and see that we've got 766 employees. But let's go ahead. We're actually interested in the average number or the average expense. And so in this case, I'm going to create a calculation. You can see in this case, I do have that more simple expression editor, average expense. And so let's just flip this around, divide. And again, now this is added here. And so again, drop this in. And it looks like the average expense per employee is around $220,000. And let's bring in that organization element again in order to see what's going on. And that's interesting. You know, on tab 1 here, we see that Go Accessories is the biggest, whereas on this tab we can see that on average the Americas has a much higher level of expense. All right, next thing we'll take a look at here is let's take a look at some individuals. So with our employee names, and just so everyone's aware, this is simply dummy data, so nothing to actually be gleaned from this. And so as I drag that in, we can see that again we have 766 employees. And so what we're interested in is taking a look at who our most expensive folks are. So I can go ahead and right click on my navigation or on my menu here, and I can take a look at the top bottom. Now I can do top 10 as we did previously, but what's also nice with this is if I'm actually interested in top 13, then we can do that as well. There's no limit to what type of top or bottom count that you can do. The other thing that we can do is if I come down here onto employee name, I can also take a look at this in terms of a percentage. So top 10% based on expense total. And so just like that, I can now see the top 10% in terms of spenders. And so this is good information for me to be able to leverage. And one of the other things we've added in here is the ability to actually turn on and show our values. So you can see here as I look at this, I can actually see each individual one listed and shown on each of the bars. And I mentioned previously one of the things that we introduced was this filter doc. So depending on exactly what is going, what we want to do, we can drop them either into all of these. So again, I could come in here and drop this into my all tab, and now this is going to allow me to say, for all of them, I'm only interested in Go Americas. And so you'll see here in this case, it updates this one, and then again, on our first tab here, we've got only now Go Americas. Whereas if I did the same thing, but move this into this tab, let's just show you what that would look like. And so again, if I drag this into this tab, and again, I choose Go Americas, again, we end up with the same result there. And I can see under my filter icon exactly what's going on for this particular element. And again, in this case, we only see 4 because we had set it up as the top 10%. So again, it's adjusting that top percentage based on what we see in this particular element. Let's finish off by taking a look at the storytelling component of the offering. So with storytelling, the goal is to help users communicate effectively and efficiently. So a couple of things that we introduced in terms of storytelling, the first of which is available both in storytelling and dashboarding, is this image library. So leveraging the same experience that users have with the extension capabilities, whereby users write up a very simple JSON spec and zip up all the images, upload it into the system. These are now available to any users who are utilizing dashboards as well as stories. The other thing that we introduced was this concept of what we call animated path. And with animated path, what this allows you to do is it allows you to move and resize elements as you transition from one scene to the next. And so in this case, I've moved an image here. Let's go ahead and bring in maybe a visualization. And let's finish off. Let's just duplicate this again and do one more visualization here. Again, the nice thing with storytelling is as I drag things in, I get to see exactly what's going on. So if I do revenue, quarters, and then product lines. All right, so now that I've gotten this and I've gone through, let's close down this and let's actually pop into full screen mode. You'll also see that there have been some minor changes here with regards to the playback bar, but in essence, for animated path, as I transition from one scene to the other, you'll see that things have that nice little fading element as they go through. Now, just to close out today, this is obviously not everything that we've included in this particular release. We didn't touch on a lot of the administrative side of the house where we've introduced new capabilities around authentication providers using the OpenID Connect standard, as well as a number of other things. For that and additional information on all the areas we've touched on today, I do highly recommend that you head over to our community. The easiest way to get at that is ibm.biz/Cognos community, or if you simply Google Cognos Analytics community, that should bring you to where you'll find a number of blog posts, videos, and more all about Cognos Analytics and each of the releases. And just one final thing that I want to bring to people's attention, we do have a couple of events happening in October. The second weekend of October in Berlin, and then the following week in New Orleans. These are the LearnQuest Analytics University events. So go check those out. We'll have representation from across the Cognos Analytics portfolio presenting sessions on what's new, what's next, how to leverage some of the new capabilities that have been introduced into Release 7, like a new logging framework. So do come join us at one of these two events. Thank you very much.